Greetings, great Bodhisattvas, and how are you this evening, or this morning, as the case may be. This is Sangha Live. I'm Tom in Gartland, and tonight we are celebrating Bodhi Day, aka Rohatsu, aka the commemoration of the Buddha's Great Awakening, which, if you're a Buddhist, is pretty big event in the whole scheme of things. It's basically what enabled us to become Buddhists. Wouldn't be much point in following the teachers of someone, just off the street. So anyway, what we're going to do tonight is basically start out by having a Buddha's enlightenment ceremony, which is sometimes known as Vesak, depending on where in the world you might be. And in fact, Vesak may be celebrated more like in April or May. And the order that I'm a part of, and also, I guess traditionally in Japan, we celebrate as close to December 8th as we can. So I'm going to start the ceremony in the traditional way. What we're going to do now is we'll have the opening bell, and we will chant the Pali refuge chant rather than Korean or Japanese or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to put the chant up there, and after 3 bells, we can all join in together, yeah? Great. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. So, homage to all the Buddhas who are present in their glory at this assembly. Homage to the Dharma, which is present in its glory at this assembly. Homage to all the Sangha who are present in their glory at this assembly. At this point, typically, as part of the service, we would, in commemoration of, in tribute to how the Buddha arrived at his awakening, we would meditate for 5 minutes. And I see no reason not to. Bear in mind visually that it's not the most interesting thing in the world, and in fact, I'm going to be doing it on my cushion, so you won't even see me, which is no great loss. But you will see the Buddha. So let's begin meditation. So, what we would like to do at this point, if there is a we, is go on with what's sort of a Sangha Live tradition of having a talk. Julio Robles, one of the other hosts of Sangha Live, is unable to join us this evening because of a family issue, and I haven't heard from him since this morning, so I'm assuming that it's still ongoing and substantially more important for him to be a good family member at this moment. So, like I said before, you know, maybe you do, maybe you don't consider yourself a Buddhist. And fact is that, as I said, you know, following someone who wasn't enlightened was precisely what Gautama was doing prior to his own awakening, right? So, you know, he had left home. He was 29 years old. He was married. He had a baby son, and decided that the encumbrances of household life just weren't going to do it for him. He had seen, for the first time, he'd experienced suffering, and basically he wanted to find out what the deal with it was, right? So, you know, he went off and, you know, shaved his head and beard and went off into the jungle, the forest nearby. And he basically lived as an ascetic, as in, you know, a life of extreme deprivation. So let me just check something here. Excuse me for this. This is the technical difficulties of running the show solo. So anyway, as the Buddha is, well, he's not the Buddha yet. He's Gautama, and he is off looking to try and find the answer to the question of suffering, what it is, why it is, all of that. And for, I don't know, 6 years or thereabouts, he goes on and you know, he studies with a number of teachers. He tries to find enlightenment through various practices of yoga and meditation and you know, a lot of different attempts to answer this question of what is suffering, why is suffering, and how does one go about understanding it. He wasn't even concerned with ending it at that point. So after 5 years of studying with other teachers who were not fully awakened, he basically said to himself, okay, I'm going to sit under this tree, which eventually became known as the Bodhi tree, and I'm staying here until I am awakened. And long story short, he does achieve awakening. He didn't get it from anything other than his own efforts. He had teachings to build on, but they didn't give the full answer. He had various yogic practices, and they didn't provide the answer. So the point of all of it is that it was his effort that got him there. And the first thing that he came upon was what we've come to call the middle path, right, or the middle way. The life of luxury that he had been brought up in didn't work. That didn't provide him any answers. The 5 years that he spent in the forest with the other ascetics, standing on one leg and eating a grain of rice a day and all that, that didn't provide the answer. So he sat in meditation until he ascertained the answer. And, upon having realized the middle path and the eightfold path, I like the middle way better than the middle path because it gets a little redundant with the paths. So anyway, the Four Noble Truths follow, that there is struggle or suffering, that there is a cause for it, that there is a way for it to end, and the way for it to end was following the Eightfold Path. And that's right view, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So anyway, he comes upon this and he says, okay, should I teach this? Is anybody going to get it? I don't know. And he was urged by an entity, let's call it, that he should go out and teach the Dharma. And so he does. He decides that he will go out and do it. Okay. So he comes upon one of the other, I guess, teachers, a purveyor of the Dhamma out there, and he says, basically, in a nutshell, and I tend to paraphrase quite a bit, so if it seems irreverent to you, then, that's just how it is. So he says, dude, I'm the Tathagata. I got it. I'm awakened. I'm not, there's no more wheel of samsara for me. I have reached that point of nibbana, if you want to use the Pali for it. And the guy says, yeah, sounds like you're there. Good luck with that. And then he walks off, and the Buddha's first attempt at teaching is an abject failure. And then he figures, all right, so maybe that wasn't the most skillful of means that I could have tried to start teaching the Dharma with. So he'd been in contact with the 5 other ascetics that he'd been practicing with and studying with and all that. And you know, when they saw him eat the bowl of rice porridge, which is what led up to his discovering the middle way. I could have put that in chronological order a little bit better. But anyway, the ascetics said, there you go, living the life of luxury. He's lost it. Yep, he's indulging himself again. Now, for most of us, someone who might happen to be eating a bowl of rice porridge, it still might seem a little, you know, less than indulgent somehow. But anyway, so he comes in contact with the five ascetics, and he says, all right, here it is. Here is the Dharma. And they said, basically, yep, you're right, it is. So that's basically, you know, in a very tight little nutshell, the overall start of the Buddha's teaching career immediately after his awakening. So in Mahayana circles, and specifically in Zen, which is my end of things, there's this Buddha nature concept. And sometimes it's described maybe a little less than skillfully, or parts of the explanation might be left out, let's say. The idea behind Buddha nature is that we are all Buddha, and we're perfect just as we are. And on one level, and you know, perhaps it's a very literal level, yeah, that might be true, okay? But just as the Buddha was a Buddha before he went through everything he went through, he did the work. He went through what he went through in order to realize his awakened nature, right? And the way I like to put it is that, yeah, basically, we are enlightened, we are awakened, we are Buddha. However, there are all these layers of delusion and ignorance and greed and you know, clinging, aversion, like, dislike, you know, all these other things, which are, let's face it, less than awakened behaviors for the most part. So if we get rid of all those layers, then yeah, we revert to our own true nature, which in Zen circles, starting with Bodhidharma, is like, okay, this is it. See your true nature, you're good. So that's basically Buddha nature, right? That everybody can realize the Buddhahood, let's call it. Not everybody is in a position where that's going to happen. So what I would say in closing here is that we need to do the effort. We need to keep trying. We need to persevere. We need to do everything in the Eightfold Path that's going to do what we can to eliminate the struggle and suffering of ourselves and others. And most importantly, until we do scrape off the layers of delusion, at least let's try and not do any harm. let's do what we can to end the suffering of other sentient beings before even ourselves. The Bodhisattva, there's a couple of different definitions of Bodhisattva. The one that I like is that the Bodhisattva attains enlightenment so that all others may attain enlightenment. There's another version that says the Bodhisattva passes on entering nirvana until all other sentient beings have entered before him in the sort of great cosmic "after you," which I kind of like that also. And when you get down to it, all the words and descriptions and thoughts about it all fall way short of whatever it is that this is. So that's basically where I'd like to leave this tonight. What comes next here is we do the 4 great Bodhisattva vows, and then I'll extinguish the candles, and then we can have our Happy Bodhi Day celebration. Yay! So I'll put the Bodhisattva vows up on the screen in theory. There we go. And then we can chant them and then open it up. Hopefully that's in the right direction for you. It's showing up on my screen as backwards. I'm not sure exactly what the deal with that is. But anyway, sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. Delusions are endless. We vow to cut through them all. The teachings are infinite. We vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable. We vow to attain it. Okay, so hello, viewers. How are we this evening, or whatever time of day it is for you? I should have some audio for you. Your mic is muted, and your mic is muted. So can you unmute your microphones? Or I will. There we go. So, Jyoti, how are you?
It seems to be a very sparse audience here.
Huh?
It seems to be a very sparse audience. It's me, Naga, and you. Even missing Julio out here. There's a lot of disturbance. I don't know why.
So, what is enlightenment to you? What's awakening to you? Do you have it?
I don't have it. I have a concept of it.
Ah, concept, eh?
Very tricky.
You
Very
know
tricky.
concepts, don't you?
Yeah, I do know. It's very difficult to translate them into action. I'm training. I'm training good.
The big thing with concepts, and yeah, I don't have it, but they do, is that's part of the dualism of separating things that are really not separated,
Mm.
creating a division there where there really isn't one.
Mm.
So, but then again, it's also the matter of, yeah, there's Buddha nature, but as Suzuki said, you're perfect just as you are, and you need a little work. So, in my order, it's sudden awakening, gradual cultivation. Right?
Mm.
Just like once you realize that you're not done. You got to
Mm.
keep trying. You got to keep, you know, going on ahead, doing the appropriate thing to save all sentient beings. Right? So, Naga.
Naga is mute.
Hi, Inzan. Hi. Um, Hi, how are you?
Very well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I feel for me, I don't even think about this enlightenment or anything because it's just, I think doing what I love to do right now, that's what it matters.
That sounds good.
Mm.
Thinking of,
Like I like cooking, so I cook.
right, you save all hungry.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, thinking of awakening or enlightenment as a thing is quite often thought of as another instance of ignorance or delusion. So,
Mm.
as much as dualism, greed, anger, whatever, thinking that anything actually is anything is probably as misguided as anything else, right?
But isn't it about desire? You start off with a desire. That's what the Buddha said. He wanted to be liberated. He started off with a desire, and then came higher and higher and higher. So the desire became more subtle and more elevated. And finally, he has achieved it. It's plausible process. The desire is a process.
Okay, well, yeah, clinging, attached um, type of desire, unwholesome desire, the kind that is based in like sensuous pleasure, um, the impermanent type of desire, looking for satisfaction in something, and that turns out to be unsatisfactory ultimately anyway, and then so that desire leads to just more desire and more desire and more desire. So in that regard, yeah, that type of desire, not so good. But if you have the desire for world peace, if you have the desire to save all sentient beings, have wholesome desires that aren't based in like sensual pleasures or seeking something that's ultimately impermanent that you can attempt to cling to, then yeah, that type of desire not going to work out so well. But a more altruistic bodhisattva-like desire,
Mm.
there's no harm in that.
But can you look at desire itself, whatever the essential that you're talking about? You look at what causes it. If you can understand it, can you not deroot the causes of these desire? I mean, you can even look at your nature. It could be a dharma door. I have tried it in a way. It is working, but it's too premature for me to tell you the results of what I'm trying to do. you can place a desire which is very much rooted in essential pleasure, and then transform it into something more esoteric, higher.
More wholesome.
Yeah, more wholesome. Start off with an unwholesome and make it more wholesome. And use that thing to look at it, to look at the whole cause of why the desire is there and why you want it. And then you transform it. It is possible. Because, it's great. It's great to have the Bodhisattva vows. And the way I understand it, it's kind of a very romantic idea of the world, the way it should be, or what I should do. And it keeps you motivated. It's good enough. But translating into practicality, it would be better to start off with your own sensual desires and then transform it into higher and higher forms. I don't know. It's possible. I don't know. I'm just trying. Because that's all.
I forget who it was now.
Okay.
Somebody specifically said that you experience greed firsthand.
Yes.
Like, I am greedy, I am being greedy, or whatever. And then once you've realized it, which it sounds kind of like what you're talking about, then you try and practice the opposite of that, rather than seeing yourself as greedy and whipping yourself for it and say, oh, I'm a bad person, I'm greedy, I'll never become awakened. You work on it by being generous, right? If you're angry, you try and work out by being more pleasant to people. Things like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking to you about. It's transforming to the paramis. It's a slow process, and there's a lot of suffering there. It is there because you're attached to these different. But if you're able to take it, I think it's good, and it needs a good teacher.
Well, as the Buddha went through a whole lot of teachers, and then eventually said, this is like right after the whole awakening experience, he said, so who should I call my teacher on this? And then he went through the list of people that he had studied with and all that stuff, and it was like, yeah, none of them. So it was, don't you love the way I sort of like paraphrase and slang up the Buddha? Like the Buddha referring to Shariputra as, yo, dude. So anyway, the realization came from Gautama's own realization, right? It was helped along by the teachings of other people, but he had to actually, put it into practice for himself. It wasn't being done by anyone else. He had to do the work.
Yes, that's true. But the Sangha has a role, and the Sangha can be expanded into, we meet a community who are Buddhists, but into a lot of other things. We can learn from a lot of circumstances. We just have to have that open approach and take in the Sangha. The world itself is a Sangha, actually. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons that we take refuge in the Sangha, and one of the reasons that we're even, doing the whole Sangha live thing, is to offer support to each other in our practice, right?
Thank you.
It's just one of those things that if you have a number of people who are looking to go in the same direction, let's say, for those of us who are unawakened and looking to awaken, relying on the teachings of others and the guidance of others and the support of others is, perfectly natural and necessary, I would imagine, at least up to a certain point, if not,
Yes.
until all sentient beings are saved.
Yes, Insan, right?
Okay, we got some nasty echo there from somewhere. I don't know where. But
There is
say again,
sorry,
Nadia?
go ahead. There is this, like in Hindu, right? They have this moksha. Moksha is probably same as enlightenment. I feel having the goal of this enlightenment. When Buddhism says, a lot of times they say that there should not be a goal. Because sometimes I wrote and then people come and say there should not be a goal, but having enlightenment as a goal kind of makes me think there's so much desire towards it, and actually it turns me away from the Buddhism sometimes because it's so much pressure. You need to know the enlightenment, you need to know kind of it's just but then sometimes the talk is different than the practicality, I think. People say something but then they're all talking about enlightenment. That's my confusion in Buddhism.
Yeah, like I said before about Buddha nature, right? Like we're all already Buddha, so I'm good. Um, there's a lot of people that you run into that will give you, the first part of Suzuki Roshi's statement. You're perfect the way you are, and you need a little work, right? Um, it depends on where you are on the path. There's a lot of let's say hardcore Zenists, and I'm one of those Zen guys, so I'm not casting aspersions on another school or anything like that. There are a lot of hardcore Zenists who don't recognize where on the path everybody else is, and like when you go to a lot of Zen Center websites, for example, you'll see them mention things like, meditation, calm down, relax, let your troubles fall by the wayside or whatever, which, in Zen practice is pretty much one of the things that's dispelled. It's like, you sit in meditation and no expectations whatsoever. Might you become calmer? Sure. But we don't sit in meditation in order to become calmer, right? So the thing is, when somebody is first, willing to experiment, their first entry into the Dharma gate, if what's going to get them through the door and get them on the path and get them to enter the stream is, yeah, I'm going to go meditate and I'm going to chill out. Okay, fine. Later on we can pull the rug out from under them and tell them, all the other things that Zen practice is about. But you can't necessarily overlook not only where I am on the path, but where you are and everybody else, right? I mean, that's part of skillful means, the upaya of, correct means of teaching, right? So words always fall short anyway, so anything anybody says, including me, just you can disregard altogether as at best an approximation of the truth, if that close.
Mm-hmm. I think it's accepting oneself where you are on the path. I think it took a lot of time for me. just to come, oh, I accept this as me right now. And then I think then you can see, oh, where am I going wrong? Or then I would ask the teacher.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not sure if the teacher keeps, not my teachers, but general, I see people, there is exactly what you said is you have everything in you what you need, right? Like as it says. And then people keep trying to oppose you or say, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. It kind of brings, I think I selected few teachers. For me, I think that felt more of truth to me.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had so many teachers. And I think each teacher comes the next level for you, or the next teaching. I think it's a gradual. So accepting where you are is the first thing that has to come within you, I think. You know, is that ego or?
No, I don't think so. You know, the one of the things that I say about that is that in order to find some peace, right, that peaceful equanimity, ending the struggle and all that stuff, in order to try and reach that point, you have to accept the status quo.
Yes.
Without settling for the status quo.
Mm.
Okay? It's not enough to say, yeah, okay, so I'm greedy. That's how I am. And letting it stop there. Right? You have to say, okay, I'm greedy. Yes, I accept that. That's not great. How about I become more generous?
Right.
And see how that works out. Right?
Right. Yeah, I think I've been experimenting that a lot. Okay, I see that, but then I want to do something totally different from what first thing it comes to is, oh, this is what I see myself. Then you say, oh, maybe I cannot go, but then you cross that limit you put on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then explore the other direction, or, you know. And of course, you all are here now. When I had other teachers, oh, that was the teacher. But then you need to go explore the other teacher, you know, or the other teaching. Like I study Zen, I study Theravada, all other things. But I study Hindu. Right now, I don't know which one religion I would pick, or I want to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel I'm so confused in not knowing what I want, but I don't think I can pick one thing and say, this is all I know I want to be, you know. That's how I feel.
Jyoti, how did you put it last week? The butterfly approach wasn't working or something along those lines?
I should confess that when I started off on the spiritual path, I started off with the known because I was a Hindu, and I started off with Advaita. And I went into the depths of Advaita and tried to find myself there. It was a tremendously horrible experience because when I was faced with my mother's illness, I could see that I couldn't handle it all. And then I tried Osho, and Osho means a lot of stuff. I've tried Guruji, I've tried a bit of Sufism, and yeah, I did try many fields. You know, I've been like a butterfly, hopping from one to another, and finally I settled down to Zen. It's been a while since I've been in Zen, and it kind of, you know, you understand that you do make those changes, you be sincere about that path, and it appeals to you completely. I mean, you are in sync with that, and that's when I think you should let go of the butterfly effect rather than shift the way Naga speaks. I have many teachers. Fine. It's always better to stay on with one single teacher and completely be vulnerable there and then work on it rather than jumping from Advaita to Guruji to Sufism and Zen and then go on and on. I've done that. And right now I'm at a point where I feel I found my path. So when I realized that I found my path, it could be that a part of my desire to be calm has been met, or I find that this is working for me. So when something is working for me, I think I should put my heart and soul into that and stop jumping on the ship to another one. It's like jumping rafts. Instead of jumping rafts, take one and decide which is right for you.
Yeah, I mean that's the Buddha himself studied with any number of other teachers before sitting under the tree and vowing that he wasn't getting up until he had nailed the answer to the big question. I don't even know that when he sat down he necessarily said to himself, okay, I'm going to become enlightened or I'm not getting up until I am. I don't even know that word would have, crossed his mind. He was looking for an answer as much as anything, I think. And I wasn't there, and I don't speak the language, and anything that I've read has been at least, how many translations later. So, for all we know, the Buddha could have spoken a lot more like me than, the eloquence as shown in the Pali text or
Exactly.
whatever, the Zen text or whatever. So, I of course would like to think that, he spoke like however regularly in the 6th century BCE, but again I have no way of knowing and it doesn't matter.
And what the Buddha did was for the Buddha, not for us. You cannot walk his path to its entirety. Maybe you can take lessons from that. Like he could leave a family, a palace, and go and practice with aesthetics, go and sit under a tree and do that. That is his path. So I think each of us has to learn or adapt that path in our own way. Change to our circumstances. Because right now, I don't think I can find a Bodhi tree to go and sit under.
Yeah, well, there's always the metaphorical tree. It doesn't necessarily need to be in Bodh Gaya and be, what was it, Ficus religiosa. The metaphorical tree is whatever the metaphorical tree is, I understand we're having some audio issues with echo, so I'm trying to turn off people's microphones when they're not speaking. So how about Joe, you want to follow up on that for a minute? Like what do you think your personal Bodhi tree might be?
It is in my work, in my day-to-day life, in my family, the way I am right now. I think I need to change my perspective. Nirvana is looking at the same thing with a different perspective. Nirvana is samsara. So it is not just an intellectual realization or reading books about it, but it is to see Nirvana in samsara, in every day-to-day activity. The way I engage with my work, the way I engage with my family, the way I engage with my friends, the way I interact with my teacher. Okay, all that is Nirvana. And it is the way, the perspective is what is changing for me. It's not the people around, nor the environment, nor the conditions. They're all the same. It's my perspective which is evolving. I think I need to work on that. That would be my Bodhi tree.
Great bows. Jyoti. Very nice. Well said. Well said. Um, that was great. That's, but the thing is, one thing to watch out for is not everybody is ready to hear that samsara is nirvana. You know, there are a lot of people who are just entering the stream who are going to say, oh man, I can't wait until I get to that nirvana thing. Oh man. And then we save the samsara is nirvana thing up to a little later when they're better able to handle that thing. Like, what? This is as good as it gets? Ah. So, but you're right. I like what you said. Absolutely. But shh, well, just keep it between us.
Yes, I'm very secretive. Thank you, Insan. And it's been a great sangha, all you people there supporting me here in India. It's been so wonderful. I was so lost a year ago, and it's so different now. I'm very happy. I just hope I don't cling to all these things. That's my only issue.
Well, you're maybe aware that that's something to watch out for, so that's at least a start, if not the finish.
Something doesn't happen the way I wish it to be. I do miss, there is desire. We're working on it. That's very hopeful.
Well, as long as it's wholesome desire, not so bad, right?
Hopefully.
So, Naga, we've got like 2 minutes left. You want to give us the closing wisdom for the evening? Naga, are you there?
Oh yes, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. What do you just want closing wisdom?
Yes.
I think the closing wisdom, to me, I feel is accepting right now, and then as I see, there's so many things come, but I feel I'm much better and happier right now where I am. I think, and then take whatever comes. And before I would beat my head. Oh my God, I don't know. But I think just even not knowing right then and being there and open your thinking, maybe be open to what comes. I think that's what is mine right now.
Well,
Not having so big expectations, but being open.
right. Very good. I knew I could get the closing wisdom out of both of you, because there is something to be learned from everyone, and someone else's way of saying it might beat the hell out of mine. So for anyone and everyone who watched this tonight live, or will watch on YouTube after the fact, great thanks, great bows, and happy Bodhi Day to all.
Happy Bodhi Day.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.